How good of an idea do insiders have right now of who the pick is going to be? Some years we knew it was going to be the best defensive end available, or it was going to be an offensive lineman, or they were going to get out 2 corners out of the first 2 nights. But the draft is now officially just 2 weeks and 2 days away. Brian, do you think this year we're going to get to a point where we know, like, there was that 1 year Dane found out it was going to be Leighton Vander Esch, took all the suspense out of it.
Yeah, we all kind of found out. I remember we were doing the draft show, and I was working with .com then, and it just seemed like that everything was lining up for Vander Esch, the right kind of guy, the toughness, all the everything about Vander Esch. And I'm like, I remember saying, Dane and I were doing a show together, and we looked at each other and go, Vander Esch is going to be the pick. This is like, this was March. Like, Vander Esch is going to be the pick here. It's lining up, da-da-da-da-da. I think the problem now you have is the Cowboys have done a pretty good job of saying, listen, we're going to bring a lot of different guys in here. They brought in both both of the higher rated guards. They brought in some of the top wide receivers. They brought in a defensive tackle, a linebacker. They've kind of covered themselves in a lot of ways. I think it is going to come down to either the guard or a wide receiver. I think it's going to be either Johnson or Green, and then with Burks, it would probably be the guy, would be my guess.
So you're cutting it down to 3 right now?
I'm trying.
Burks, Johnson, Green?
I think Burks, Johnson, Green, if one of those guys is available at that spot, I think the Cowboys, they could very well take this thing in another direction. I think to me, it's been not a lot of information is getting out there other than the 30 list, and now it's gone to lockdown mode.
Okay.
So, it's going to be a little bit tougher, but building a board right now, we'll see how they stack that thing.
Up next here in the Cowboys News of the Evening, Todd Archer reporting, in allocating draft resources, would the Cowboys go defensive tackle at 24? That's the headline.
Yeah.
He points out that they're bringing Jordan Davis to the Star. They did last week.
Right.
They must have at least some level of interest. And that's very interesting because they have not taken a defensive tackle in the first round since 1991 with Russell Maryland. Yes. Yeah. Over the other things to consider, over the past 3 years, Brian, the Cowboys starting nose tackles have played between 38 and 44% of the snaps on each season, which is low.
Yeah.
I think you have needs at O-line, D-line, linebacker, maybe tight end, wide receiver. I just want to say make sure you get the good player because one's going to be on the board. And I would say don't get cute. You have to be willing to take defensive tackle. If you can't trade up, you can't trade down, and the best guy there is a defensive tackle, and you take a prospect that is flawed instead because you have a weird rule that we don't value defensive tackle, I think you failed your organization. A lot of teams winning the Super Bowl have one of these big-bodied guys. I think if you want to have a complete defense, you need one. If you want to play gimmick defense, like we're going to try to cover and rush the passer and be hoping not to get crushed by the run game, we've seen how that goes. They've had a similar defense to that sort of idea. I'm looking forward to watching this team building a great defense, and I think that Jordan Davis could be a big step towards that.
I'll tell you what, you're not wrong about that. And I got into a Twitter discussion. I'm not going to call it an argument. I mean, when you argue with somebody on Twitter, it draws a lot of folk in. And I got in an argument with John Owning about the same thing, not about what you said, but I took the other approach, the Archer approach. And this is not something that Todd and I talked about, but I made a point is, check the number of snaps that Dan Quinn plays in nickel. And then, does the 24th pick of a defensive tackle, is that enough to justify the snaps that he's not going to play because he's probably not going to play in nickel?
Okay, follow-up question to you.
Yeah.
Would having Jordan Davis make him play a higher percentage of his one technique?
That's the question, because when you watch Jordan Davis play, they take Walker, who a lot of people are saying is the first or second player in the draft now, the defensive end. They take Davis out, they put Walker at nose, and then they rush the passer that way in nickel. So, we had this discussion on the draft show. If you can catch it, DallasCowboys.com. We had a big discussion about that this morning, about could you play Davis more snaps and would he give you the pass rush? And I know, as the panel was going back and forth,
he had 2 sacks last year.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do you get is it worth it for that? Is it now? If you were just getting gashed in the run, all of a sudden, and you want to protect your linebackers, yeah, that's a good reason. That's a really good reason. But I challenge you, though, is Dan Quinn going to get him on the field to justify? Now, maybe the 24th pick, it's a justification.
See, yeah.
Because it's not a top 5 pick.
If you don't think the defensive tackle one technique is worth a first-round pick and you're sitting at 24,
it's not a first-round pick.
It no longer applies.
Yeah. Because that's probably, if you have 20 names on your board, he might not be one of your 20 names. He might be number 22 or 23.
And what if he's number 14, but the rest of the league is looking at it like they can't take that in the first round? And now a great player is staring you in the face at 24. How are you going to turn that down? I mean, something similar happened for the Commanders 3 or 4 years ago with Payne. And they got him at like 12 or 13 or something when he was supposed to be a top 5 type of talent.
Yeah, you're right about that. See, that's the thing. I mean, this could be one of those things where all of a sudden, if the guy's sitting there now, you're going to have to walk the minefield of, the Ravens and potentially the Eagles and something like that. But
if they take him, that's fine.
It could be very well worth it to you.
I just want the Cowboys to be open-minded to it.
I think they are. The fact that they brought him on the 30 visit, I think they're open-minded to it.